Folks, welcome back to Zondo Africa. This is Chris in Central Pennsylvania. Shocking breaking news out of South Africa, where South Africa's High Court has sentenced former President Jacob Zuma of the African National Congress to 15 months imprisonment for his contempt of court. This all stems from his failure to show up for a hearing in February before the Zondo Commission on corruption and state capture in South Africa. Now, the 79-year-old former president, who served for 9 years until 2018, has 5 days to surrender. If he doesn't surrender, authorities will come to arrest him, according to the court. Now, Zuma got his arrogant wish, having stated repeatedly that he'd rather be jailed than appear before the Zondo Commission, which he's supposed to testify before. Now, the irony about all this is that Zuma himself, while serving as president under pressure over growing concerns of state capture, created the Zondo Commission. Presumably, he thought he could control it. Well, he can't control it. It continues long after he's left office. But he himself created the Zondo Commission. Separately, and the reason for all this testimony is that Zuma faces 16 charges of fraud, graft, and racketeering from the 1999 arms deal. Now, the irony here is that he skated on this arms deal for 21 years. In addition to that, he skated on rape charges for having bedded and molested the daughter of a close associate and got away with it. How does Zuma have so many 9 lives over and over and over again? It seems like he's got 99 lives. Well, for those who don't know, Jacob Zuma was the former head of intelligence for Umkhonto we Sizwe. Umkhonto we Sizwe is the so-called armed wing of the African National Congress, the joke of an insurrection or insurgent movement that did more harm to its own members, who they suspected of collusion or collaboration with the South African authorities, than they actually ever did in the field, including Angola and in South Africa itself. So Zuma always knew where all the bodies were buried. This is how this illiterate buffoon clown became president of South Africa in the first place. But shocking news out of South Africa, where Zuma has been jailed. Let me read some of the comments about what the judge had to say in this case. So the judge ordered the former president to hand himself over within 5 days, as I said. If he fails to do so, the police be ordered to arrest him and ensure he is to be delivered to a correctional center. This according to Judge Sisi Khampepe. She has a great deal of courage to issue this judgment. Zuma remains wildly popular amongst Zulu South Africans and many millions more. In fact, the current ANC government is split and has been split since the ascension of Cyril Ramaphosa back in late 2017 between a pro-Zuma camp and a pro, not so pro, but other camp, real Ramaphosa camp. And he's had a tenuous grip on power, anytime subject to a vote of no confidence in Parliament, because he's not truly a president. He has presidential powers, but he's selected in a parliamentary fashion. So he doesn't face the voters, he faces Parliament. And as long as he keeps his party in line, he stays there. But it's been a tenuous situation for Ramaphosa from the outset. Today, Khampepe said the Constitutional Court can do nothing but conclude that Mr. Zuma is guilty of the crime of contempt of court. She added, this kind of recalcitrance and defiance is unlawful and will be punished. I'm left with no option but to commit Mr. Zuma to imprisonment, with the hope that doing so sends an unequivocal message. The rule of law and the administration of justice prevails. Well, it's about damn time, South Africa. Where has this jurisprudence been for the past 20 years, as minorities are wiped out left and right, as the country descends into a gangster state, and you have a police commissioner who's more concerned about imprisoning people for walking on sidewalks during unlawful, unconstitutional lockdown restrictions than he is stopping farm murders, cash and transit heists, or the violence directed against women. The majority judgment orders an unsuspended sentence of imprisonment for 15 months. So there's no suspension to this. He's got a sentence of 15 months. This is the High Court. He either goes to jail, he flees the country, or a civil war breaks out in South Africa. Which will it be? Which will it be? Zuma had repeatedly reiterated that he would rather be in prison than cooperate with the commissioner or comply with the order, said Khampepe. And he got his wish. He now has a prison sentence. Back in February, Judge Raymond Zondo said he would seek an order from the Constitutional Court that Zuma was in contempt of court and would press for a jail sentence. If the message that is sent out is that people can ignore or disregard summons and orders of courts with impunity, there will be very, very little left of our democracy. Well, agreed. 100% reported it time and again that there is little left of South African democracy. There is total contempt for the law. What about Julius Malema? Somebody wetting their nappies right now ought to be Julius Malema. If the High Court sends this message to lawbreakers in South Africa, to those who thumb their nose at authority, well, Julius Malema shouldn't be too far behind with his incitement of acts against cliques, his incitement to burn Boer farmers out, his constant racial attacks, for which he skated for nigh on 20 years now. The inconvenient youth has become the annoying middle-aged clown. So what does this mean, folks? What does it mean? Is this a triumph for the rule of law in South Africa? Don't hold your breath. Zuma has exasperated Ramaphosa and has exasperated the Zondo Commission. They've simply had their fill. Is this a court being independent like it should be? Well, one would say so on the surface, but what comes next will be most telling. Will people rally around Zuma? The MK, we see all sorts of steps taking place here, which people haven't noticed. The announcement of the disbandment of the MK Military Veterans Association, a group that vowed to protect Zuma with their lives, showing up in camouflage uniforms and toy-toying outside his home in Nkandla. That can't be a coincidence that the MK Veterans Association was disbanded. Now, supposedly it's merging with another organization, but it's disbandment. The sidelining of Ace Magashule, the corrupt former Free State premier, who was ascended to the Secretary General position of the African National Congress with no qualms until he became too big a thorn in his side and Ramaphosa needed to assert his authority. So effectively, Ramaphosa is attacking two factions within the ruling ANC. The Magashule faction, which is the smaller faction, and the Zuma faction, which is the largest faction within the party. He's attacking both. It comes at great risk for Ramaphosa and for the ANC. But it appears that Ramaphosa and the government are taking the bigger chance that a stand against this pervasive corruption in the face of all the horrific theft and malfeasance by ANC councillors, members of parliament, people within their party at Luthuli House during the lockdown, the diversion of contracts, the racist legislation. No, they won't rescind any of that. But all of that's getting too much attention because of the open graft, the grift, the theft, the racketeering that's taking place on PPE, on all the relief funds. People suddenly starting to ask the question I've been telling them to ask since last summer, where is the $5.6 billion, $285 million from the African Development Bank, $1 billion from the BRICS Bank, and $4.3 billion from the International Monetary Fund? Where did that $5.6 billion, 90 billion rand go to, Cyril Ramaphosa? People are beginning to ask these questions, and these are too difficult questions to ask for the ANC. So this internal fight is now coming to the surface. In addition to the sideline of Ace Magashule and now the issue of imprisonment for Jacob Zuma, the former president. No former president of South Africa has ever been imprisoned. Ever. This will be a first. There's also the tepid threat to Julius Malema and the economic freedom fighters, both by President Ramaphosa in his address on Sunday, the 27th of June, threatening people who flout the lockdown rules. A clear message, although a very tame and limp-wristed, weak-willed threat to Malema and his economic freedom fighters to obey. They have no intention of obeying. Now, if the economic freedom fighters continue their push, then Zuma has a fight beyond imagination on his hands. For most of the lockdown, the economic freedom fighters have been absolutely useless in South Africa and accomplished nothing. But here we go, folks. On this day, the 29th of June, 2021, has South Africa taken a stand for the rule of law? Don't hold your breath. Don't hold your breath. Because the ANC, it's all about loyalty. Corruption is less of a concern for ANC members than loyalty. We will see where it goes from here. But once again, today, folks, Judge Sisi Khampepe has ordered former President Cyril Ramaphosa to serve 15 months imprisonment, not suspended. He must serve the full 15 months. The 79-year-old will be an octogenarian when he comes out of prison. Or he'll flee the country sometime today or this week or first chance he gets to a non-extradition location. The judge said the following: the Constitutional Court can do nothing but conclude that Mr. Zuma is guilty of the crime of contempt of court. This kind of recalcitrance and defiance is unlawful and will be punished. I am left with no option but to commit Mr. Zuma to imprisonment with the hope that doing so sends an unequivocal message. The rule of law and the administration of justice prevails. Majority judgment orders an unsuspended sentence of imprisonment for a period of 15 months. Is justice coming to South Africa? I doubt it. 2 more farm murders over the weekend. Reported on one of those. I'll report on the other one. More details become available on Hank Berger's brutal stabbing death. Also already reported on Daryl Richter's death. He managed to take out 2 of the cowardly assailants who killed him, mortally wounding them. Folks, if you're not a subscriber to Chris Wyatt Africa, tune in here where you get objective, unbiased reporting from around the world, focused on Africa, especially on Southern Africa. Thank you for your support and patronage. And good news today for those who seek the rule of law in South Africa. Jacob Zuma sentenced to 15 months unsuspended imprisonment for contempt of court.